Welcome to the Passionate Pioneer podcast. Hi, I'm Beth, and I'm passionate about supporting women who are feeling disillusioned and disappointed with their career and showing them what is possible when you follow your passion. Having your voice heard, finding your tribe of like minds, and being able to get support is so important when you don't know where to turn or who to talk to. I transformed my life from the corporate world to the coaching world, and I now empower women to follow my example and claim the freedom of choice to follow their heart, soul, and passion. So let's get started. Today, I am joined by Tracey Lee. Tracey worked in many different law firms as a PA, in the Cayman Islands, where I met her, and also in her native Australia, but always found there was a common theme of job misrepresentation at the interview stage, bullying, segregation between men and women, micromanaging, used as a glorified photocopier and gopher, and generally overworked, undervalued, and used. She was so disenchanted about the legal industry that she decided her next job would be completely different, and she applied for a position at the Animal Welfare League. Taking a huge pay cut, she got the job and is now fulfilling her passion of caring for animals and managing her department. Two very different careers, and a story that has come full circle from working with animals when she was young and knowing that was her passion, but going into the legal industry instead. Let's hear her story. Welcome, Tracey.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
Very good. It's so nice to see you again.
And
Let me just say that I have known Tracey for... Let's just say the story of how we met, Tracey. Tell the story.
I was about to leave Cayman, and I needed a place to stay for a few weeks after I got out of my apartment. So I just happened to look on the classified site over there and saw that you were advertising for a cat sitter while you were back visiting in the UK. So I stayed at your place and looked after your two beautiful little kitty cats.
I know. That's how we met, right? So it started. It's funny because you love animals, and that's why I said. So when you came to my apartment and we sat and chatted, and that was it. You were transitioning, you were moving from the Cayman Islands back to Australia, and it was perfect timing, wasn't it? And we hit it off immediately.
Yeah, we did. It was perfect timing, and then we caught up again when I visited there 7 years ago. So
that's right. Yeah. For your birthday, yeah, we were just I remember that. Gosh, that was a lot of champagne.
Just a little bit.
As you do. So this is a really interesting story. So let's jump back. So you obviously worked in the legal industry, very horrible experiences that you've had. So why don't you start with that story, and then let's work forward to where you are now.
Okay, so I just felt very sorry, Beth. I've just lost my spot here. Can you pause? So I've been in the legal industry for over 30 years. And I've worked at quite a few firms in that time, both in Australia and obviously in the Cayman Islands as well. And I just found that it was always the same sort of theme going on there. You'd apply for a job, in one department, and then they'd just move you somewhere else, or someone would leave and then they don't want to replace them. So they just give you the work. So you'd be doing the job of two people or extra duties, but there was never any reward for it.
Sorry, do you think that's normal, Tracey? Is that normal in the legal industry? Is that
I've come across
working practice?
Yeah, I've come across that in a few law firms. I just think maybe not so much in the early days of when I was working in law, but definitely, in the latter years. Now, I returned to Australia 9 years ago, and I've had 7 legal jobs in 3 different cities in that time.
Right. So you can
And
definitely
obviously,
speak from experience then, yes?
yes. So obviously, do the math, 7 jobs in 9 years. So there was always, some sort of issue as to what made me want to leave there and go somewhere else. Um, yeah, so I do find that is a bit of an issue in the legal world, and you can have someone that is average at their job, good at their job, or great at it. But, just being average seem to just get you the same or get you more than what being great would do. So, there wasn't really any incentive to be great at your job because, average people would get promoted or, you'd be wanting to do extra duties, but they didn't want to pay you for it. I do have paralegal experience. I was actually working as a paralegal before I left for Cayman. So
Right.
I was running my own files, drafting my own documents and stuff like that. So, some places did get me to do paralegal work, which I liked doing, but they actually didn't want to pay me to be doing the paralegal work sort of thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I know it happens probably in, a lot of workplaces, but and my background is legal. I have worked in a couple of places not in legal, but so I can't really sort of say that this happens in other industries as well. But I always found there was, a little bit of a mean girls club. And as you mentioned, I did go through some workplace bullying from
Right.
certain members, women, obviously.
No, that's really,
Um,
isn't that awful, Tracey, that bullying comes from other
yeah,
women, right?
I know.
Workplace.
And it's just like, we're all adults. We're not back in school. You know, I believe in building other women up, not tearing them down. It did become emotionally draining. And quite often I just didn't want to get out of bed and go to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, yeah, so it's very unfortunate that that happens. And I know I'm probably not alone in that
You're
scenario.
actually, no, you're not alone. It's happened with in other interviews I've talked about some bullying, but
Mm,
usually that's they were in male dominated industries. I'm just wondering if as women, we some women, not all of us, some women just feel that they have to be more in their masculine in that type of
mm,
environment, and that makes them more controlling, manipulative, and bitchy, basically, right?
yeah, definitely bitchy. Um, I kind of got the impression on occasions, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I am good at my job. Um, and especially if like you were sort of filling in for somebody or doing work. I have had scenarios where someone's secretary's been off, so I was doing work for them, and then even though the secretary was there, they would bring stuff to me because I did a really good job.
Right.
So I think understandably that some people may have found that a little bit threatening, I suppose, threatening to their position, which is silly. But yeah, so I just seem to have been a common theme, and it's happened, at pretty much every firm I've been at, especially since I've been back in Australia. Hence why I decided to leave the legal industry.
Yeah, it's just it seems right. So it's not you're not I worked in a completely different industry, but I found the same. Not that it was maybe a little bitchy, but I did find because I was good at my job and I was doing lots of different people. People were just it was just became the norm. I'll just call Beth; she'll do it. She'll find it for
Yeah.
you. She'll
Mm,
find that
mm,
paperwork. She can do that in 5 minutes. She's just the go-to person. And I'm like, it's doing everybody else's job, and I'm like, it becomes the norm. And that's when I realized that and started stepping back from that and saying, actually, no, you're on
mm,
your own. You're going to have to do that yourself. I'm not going to
mm,
help you, basically. Was when I started to realize and quietly quit, right?
mm,
Quietly quit out of my out of the out of my corporate job, because that was the start of it. But yeah, So tell me, so we talked about your work. So what was the clinching point for you after working all those different jobs, seven jobs in 9 years? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, it was very disillusioning, to be honest. I was starting to think like, why does, this just keep happening? I've had a couple of misrepresentations interviews as well, as you said. Probably the biggest one for that, which was also the straw that broke the camel's back, basically, on my legal career. So this was towards the end of 2021. I had interviewed for a position as a paralegal in family law. And I was very excited about that because family law's always been of interest to me. But the day I got there, they told me that the role had changed. And basically, I was just being admin to the lawyers. So it was kind of like low-level secretarial tasks that pretty much, a junior could have done. I felt that was a pretty terrible thing to do.
Is that
Wait until I started.
after they'd offered you the position and the day one you arrived, they told you that the job had changed?
Even in my contract, it said I was being employed as a paralegal. Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So then they kept telling me, once I learnt the administrative side, that they would then give me paralegal work. 3 months later, I was still waiting. They just kept piling me up with more admin work, taking stuff from finance and giving it to me, taking stuff from conveyancing and giving it to me. So even if they were going to give me paralegal work, I didn't have time to do it anyway. Right. And then they said to me that basically when the receptionist was away or if she was, down at the post office or doing errands, that I was basically to be a casual receptionist. And I'm just like, this is not what I signed up for. So, yeah, I was just very, very pissed off basically this particular day. So I thought, I'm just going to have a look at the job site. And normally when I did go and look at jobs, I would just either look at legal jobs or, your general PA, executive assistant jobs. But this particular day, I thought I'll just look at all of the admin jobs. And I saw this one at the animal welfare. And I thought, that sounds amazing, but there's no way I'm going to get this job. I thought every man and his dog, pardon the pun, will be going for it. And I applied for the job and I got it. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So, yeah, so I only lasted that other job for 3 months. And, then I started at this one January last year.
So I did mention that in your introduction about this full circle of, loving animals and wanting to do that when you were young. And then you went into the legal industry, I'm guessing for reasons of, it's what I should do, maybe it was better paid and you were looking at the promotions and the, I don't, tell me.
Definitely better paid. So, when I was growing up, I actually did want to be a vet at some point. Obviously, that's a lot of study, and I was in a small country town in South Australia, and they didn't have, the vet university there. I would have to have gone interstate to Melbourne, which, at 17 or whatever age I would have been, was pretty daunting to go to this big, huge city where I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And also too, obviously, it's a lot of study, a lot of hard work. And, I may not even have gotten the scores to get in. But when I was 18, I was offered 2 jobs. One was an office job just at the local Shire Council, and the other one was a trainee vet nurse. Now, I took the council one because it was more money.
Right.
And that was nearly 40 years ago, and I still kick myself to this day over the decision.
Right.
So I do kind of feel that I have come full circle, 360, because, I've always regretted that decision, and now, I'm working in the animal welfare industry. So
isn't that funny, when you were looking for new work, this advert just sort of jumped out at you, right?
Yeah, it sure did. So I couldn't believe that I actually got the job. It had been advertised for, I think, 10 days at that point. So I thought they've probably already filled the position. So, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so that's just meant to be, really, meant to be. Yeah, just meant to be.
Yeah,
And I think, sorry,
absolutely.
it's just because you've just got sort of, you've got to a certain point, haven't you? You tried. I mean, you gave it your best, Tracey, didn't you? I mean, you know, how many jobs over so many years, right? And they just was just disappointed. It just wasn't meant to be. And then you just were looking in this, you know, looking in the newspaper or online or whatever, and this job was there for this animal welfare league, and it jumped out at you. That's just what I call a spiritual turning point. It's a nudge from the universe, right?
I
Would you
100% agree
agree?
with that. Absolutely, yes. I totally believe in timing, fate, destiny, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean
the thing
that's
is, like,
yeah,
because the job I had before that, that was when I was doing paralegal work, but they didn't want to give me any extra money. So because I did ask for a pay rise. So it's like if they did give me that pay rise, then I wouldn't have moved to the paralegal job that wasn't a paralegal job. And if that had have been paralegal in family law like it was meant to be, I wouldn't have been looking for anything else, and I wouldn't have found the job that I'm in now. So I do believe everything happens for a reason.
right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely it does. Absolutely.
Mm.
So would you say you are a person who generally follows others, or are you a bit of a trailblazer?
Oh, I'm a trailblazer for sure. So for years, I travel overseas by myself. You know, I go to concerts, musicals. I do everything by myself. When I was 40, which is, you know, quite old to kind of do something like this, I left my job, my friends, my family, my country, moved overseas to the Cayman Islands. I didn't know anybody. I only went over there on a temporary 6-month work permit to start with,
Right.
and then I ended up being there for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I always just go for it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're all, you know, the women I interview on here are passionate pioneers. This is what we are, right? We are trailblazers. We've all forged
Absolutely.
our own path.
Yeah.
And as you know, a lot of the interviews I've been doing here are from women I've met when I've traveled, who
Mhm.
also traveled alone. Um,
Mhm.
so how long were you feeling like disenchanted, disappointed, and disillusioned with your career? How long do you think that went on for before you finally snapped?
Oh God. Well, from about 2009 to, you know, 2 years ago, so or 18 months ago, so quite a while. I feel like it kind of started when I was in the Cayman Islands. So I was working, as I said, as a paralegal before I left Australia, where I drafted my own documents and ran my own files. I went to secretarial position, which was fine. But I hate being bored. I need to be like really busy.
Right,
And I just didn't find that. And I didn't feel like my skills and experience were being used to their full potential. And as you would know, when you're in the Cayman Islands, you're on a work permit, which
right.
is held by your employer, right?
Yeah,
So, you know, you can't just sit there and go, oh, I don't really like this job anymore. I'm going to go get another one, you know, just like you do in the quote, real world, unquote. Um, so
yeah,
I kind of
they
felt,
really got you, haven't they? They really hold you. You can't,
yes,
you know, it's in your contract. You can't just quit and go to work for someone else. I don't know whether people understand that. The Bahamas is the same. You know, you're beholden to the company that have got your work permit. And
yeah,
it's very difficult to leave until the end of that contract, right?
and the thing is, because everyone over there is basically on island time, you know, so your contract would be coming up, and you know, you'd have interviews and stuff, but then they wouldn't get back to you until after, but which time, you know, you've already had to get your new work permit. So then you're back in the same situation, you know what I mean? So yeah, so it kind of did start there, and then obviously, you know, once I got back to Australia and everything else just kind of happened. Yeah, so it has been going
Yeah,
on for a while.
right. Yeah. What do you think was your biggest disappointment professionally?
Um, Feeling like I've been taken for granted and not being rewarded for my efforts. Um, I feel like there seems to be the mentality, you know, from head honchos, for want of a better term, that, oh, well, if you leave, it doesn't matter. We can just get someone else tomorrow. And like I said before, there's people that are average at their job, good at their job, and great at their job. And, I don't feel like the great ones are appreciated as good as they should be, and, oh, we can get someone else tomorrow. But, and like I said previously, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but there have been, I think, 3 or 4 jobs that I have left in the past where they've had to employ 2 people to do my job.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you didn't gain anything. Now you're paying 2 wages.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get the mentality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. They think everybody's 10 a penny, and we're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
We're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, totally understand that. And that's not the first time I've heard that, Tracey. You're not alone in that story, right?
That's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've heard that. Let's ask a different question. What do you say motivates you? What motivates you in life or work?
These days it's great getting up to go to work every morning to a job that, first of all, I enjoy doing. I'm working not for profit, so I feel appreciated and valued by the organisation, and they actually think I'm an important part of the organisation and that they want to keep me. So, it's good in that way. Like, I feel like I'm not going to work every day just to line lawyers' pockets with money. And my boss is great, and she works off site, so I only see and hear from her once a month. So I'm trusted to get on with the job, run the department, make my own decisions. So yeah, it's really good.
Trust is a big one, right? So maybe that's what was missing in the legal industry, the trust factor.
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
they have a high turnover of staff. They're lacking in the trust, aren't they? Whereas now you have a job, but that's, your boss trusts you and lets you get on with it without being micromanaged.
Yeah, I think more so, the actual lawyers you were working for, in most instances, they did trust you. But obviously they're just employees as well. So, they don't necessarily have too much of a say in kind of things either. So it's all from, higher up.
That's the problem, isn't it, with the larger corporate firms or companies, industries, is that we're just a number, aren't we?
Yeah, whereas here I'm not a number. I'm a person, and you know what? They love what I do, and that I'm important and integral to the organisation, and they want to keep me.
You're valued, aren't you? Yeah.
Finally,
right? Finally, yes, yeah. And I think that's the problem. I mean, there's many different stories, as I said, from the interviews I've been doing. Masculine industry, undervalued, worked as a gopher, just a number. All of these, and undervalued as a woman as well, right? It's I think that a lot of these big corporate industries are still very male dominated, and it's and that's why I think we have problems with some women that go into these masculine dominated industries and are in their masculine most of the time, and they lose their feminine side. They lose their feminine side, right?
Yeah, it is still very much a boys' club. I mean, it is changing, but it is still very much a boys' club in a lot of law firms. If you go to the list of, partners of the firm, generally the men will outweigh the women. There was one firm that I worked at, they only had one female partner.
Right.
All the rest were men.
Not unusual, is it? It's not unusual.
No,
and how do you think she was? Was she part of the boys' club?
No.
Right.
No.
Okay. Good. Okay. Okay. So, can you name 3 specific things that would definitely be part of your new life and 3 things that definitely wouldn't?
Okay. So definitely is to embrace everything that happens in life. Don't sweat the small stuff and live life to the fullest. And
nice.
definitely will not be taken for granted. will not settle for less than what I deserve. And I now speak up for myself.
Very good. I love those. That's great. But that has happened because you made that choice to leave your corporate career, right? And you decided, I am valued, I am worthy. I'm not taking this crap anymore.
And you know what? The last legal one, I didn't go quietly. I let them know exactly how I felt.
Very good.
I mean, it was by email, but still I did.
Yeah, good. I think they need to know, we need to start standing up for ourselves, don't we? And speaking the truth.
Yeah. And when they re-advertised the position that I'd gone for, it was re-advertised as, I think, a finance administrator. So they had no intention of giving me paralegal work.
Right. And this is a big one for me, and it's about self-care. Now, I know in the corporate world, because we're so busy doing all the time, and it's very, male dominated. We don't, and as women in general, really, we don't tend to take very good care of ourselves. So as a busy professional, how difficult do you think it is to take care of yourself and maintain a state of good mental health?
Well, I definitely find it better now, obviously, because, I'm happy at work. It's quite amazing that when you're not happy at work, how much that can affect, other parts of your life. I'm very lucky in that nearly for the last 2 years, I've met this amazing man. So he's very supportive. He has a different work schedule to me. So he does all the housework and the cooking. So that saves me a lot of hours a week. Yeah, I was finding it hard to fit in an exercise regime. So recently I did change my hours. I now finish a half an hour earlier than I was before, which has made a really big difference. So now I've got time straight after work. I go to the gym, or I go for a walk, or jog, those sorts of things. But then I've still got time of an evening to sit in front of the TV and just chill out and relax and wind down.
So have you got a bit more of a flexible schedule now, would you say, with this new career in your industry?
Yeah, so I mean, I still work the same hours a week. I just start earlier and finish earlier. So yeah, that's been really helpful in just, trying to get that work-life balance happening.
But it's nice, isn't it, that you can choose that and you can change that. So you just go in, as long as you work the same hours and you get the work done, you can start earlier, finish earlier, right? And that's always nice, isn't it? That flexible schedule.
For sure.
That's for sure. We're not sort of, again, not to use the same word, but beholden. It is the word, beholden to someone else's schedule, and that's the it's nice to have that flexibility, isn't it, so that you get that work-life balance.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And that they sort of understand that as well, and they encourage people to have that work-life balance.
Right. So what has your life experience taught you about what you are really capable of with all of those different jobs and life in general?
Well, yeah, so I have been through a lot of things. I've learned that I am stronger than I ever thought that I could be. And, I can overcome obstacles that are put in my way, and that I can get through anything, really.
Right.
I mean, it takes time, but, you get there.
It does, right? It does. It does take time. And with the generation, Tracey, with the Gen Xers, right? We're the sort of, actually the ones that are stepping up now into leadership. I think there are some millennials doing the same, but we're the Gen Xers. It's taken us a little bit longer, hasn't it, to realize what we're really capable of?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So what relationships or people influenced or inspired your sense of destiny?
All of my ex-boyfriends.
I wasn't expecting that answer.
So I just feel like they all put me on the path that my life has taken and brought me to where I am today. So for instance, I was supposed to be getting married when I was just turned 20. And he cheated on me 3 months before we got married.
Right.
So if that hadn't have happened, obviously I would have married him, probably would have had kids. This was in a small country town, so my life would have turned out very different to what it has. So I don't think that I would have had the opportunity to live overseas for 7 years and, do all the travel that I've done, and wouldn't have met all the wonderful people and friends that I have now from, all over the world.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. That's a very unusual answer. Yeah. Well, it's just it's the pivotal moments, isn't it? The people that you meet that, for example, I did a social media post the other day. I talked about pivotal points, and I had a really negative teacher at school. She just said some really unkind words.
They stick with you, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They stick with you, but it's turning them into positives, like you've just done, right? With your, look, if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have been able to travel. I mean, I was just thinking of going straight into a job, and she told me that I wasn't clever enough to go to college, and that was the time for me where I said, right, I'm going. And then
when I was
other things happened, and you just follow the breadcrumbs, right?
Yeah, so it was around about 2003. So, beginning of 2004, I moved from Adelaide in South Australia to Brisbane in Queensland. And that was basically the catalyst for that was a broken relationship. And I just thought, oh, I'm just sick of this. I just want to move somewhere else. So the job that I had when I was in Brisbane, it was a woman there that had actually found the ad for the legal secretaries in the Caribbean. So, do you know what I mean? So
Right.
if that didn't happen and I didn't move to Brisbane, then I wouldn't have met her. I wouldn't have ended up in the Cayman Islands.
Right. They're all pieces of information from the universe or a higher source or God, whatever you want to call it, right? The creator. They're all little nudges, and they're all, they're the whispers that, that point you in a different direction that will lead. It's just one step after another step, following your nose, following the breadcrumbs, whatever.
But totally.
That's very interesting, isn't it? And you can see that now looking back, right?
Yeah. Yes, you sure can. You don't see it at the time sometimes, but definitely all the pieces of the puzzle fit together.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? What roles attracted you?
I kept changing my mind. So I mentioned before I did want to be a vet at some point. I also wanted to be a nurse, a police officer, private investigator.
Oh, yeah, right. Those my dad was a police officer, and I wanted to be a police officer. I think I would have been a pretty good one, actually, because I like following the clues. And a bit of a Sherlock Holmes, right? So but he told me no, because the world was changing. It was the 80s, and he said it was much more dangerous to be a police officer, and so I decided not to do it. And he said I followed food, and I trained as a chef and that, which helps me now because I love cooking, right? It's just one of my passions. Is I just love getting in the kitchen and doing that. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Hairdresser was never for me. That wasn't going to happen. But
actually, I did want to be a hairdresser at some point. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I'm not a police officer. They're just, oh wow, the job that they do is just, amazing. And not too long ago, unfortunately, there were 2 police officers that just went to a house on a kind of a welfare check, and they ended up being shot and killed.
Right.
This was just about 3 hours from here in Queensland. So just the danger that they're put in every day. I just take my hat off to them for what they do. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't go down that. But I still fancy myself as a little bit of a private investigator.
Right.
Yeah. So a bit of a joke at work is I'm Trace Ventura, pet detective.
Trace Ventura. I love that. That's hilarious. But you're now, I mean, is that something that you would follow, Tracey? I mean, you're working with animals now, and and loving it, obviously. And that was obviously your passion when you were younger, and you had that choice, and you didn't take it, and it's come full circle. But private investigator, is that something you might do? Something on a side job?
Yeah, no, I did think of it. I think of it, at one point, but no, it's just, I just do it for fun.
Right. Yeah. It's nice though, isn't it, to do that sort of thing as a hobby?
Yeah.
Being a detective. So if money was no object, what would you love to do?
Travel the world.
Oh, travel.
Yes, definitely travel the world. But I'd also volunteer my time, animal shelters. I'd love to go to Borneo and work with the orangutans.
Oh, yes.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So when we lived in the Cayman Islands all those years ago, they had a fantastic animal shelter. Were you a big part of that too when you were there? I think you were, yes?
Yes, I was. Yeah. So I did some beach training with some dogs, and I used to do the dog walking, go visit the cats. Went to a couple of fundraising events, volunteered there. Yeah, definitely. The Humane Society. Yeah, I love doing that.
It was always there, right? That love and that passion for,
Mm.
helping animals.
Yeah, and I did save 3 dogs at one point that ended up in there, and they let me pick them up sometimes and take them out. So I'd pick them up and take them down to the beach, and just to see them having fun, out of the shelter, it just melted my heart. I
Right.
even went to the airport. Even went to the airport a couple of times when some of the dogs were being sent off to new homes in the States.
Oh yes,
To
that's
say
right.
goodbye to them.
Yeah, that's right, because they do have adoptions, don't they, from other parts of the world, and they send the little doggies off
Yeah.
to, popping away, they call it, don't they?
Yeah. So yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah. So tell me, how do you feel now about when you look back and you look at all those years and working for the legal industry, and now you're working, taking care of the animals. What's the difference? How do you feel now? Now you're following your passion.
Oh, I feel relieved that I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah, I just feel like, yeah, I'm just doing what I meant to do, you know. It's just so enjoyable, and getting up and going to work every day, just something I really like doing. Yeah, so, and
Good.
it makes me feel good because I know that I'm making a difference in animals' lives,
Right.
and that's rewarding,
Yeah.
like for me personally. Yeah.
Yeah, because they can't, they need us to take care of them because,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So final question, Tracey, before we wrap up. So what advice would you have for your younger 25-year-old self or 20-something self?
So, probably like most people, I kind of had my life planned out of what it was going to be like. I wanted to be married with 2 kids by the time I was 25. In reality, I had 2 broken engagements, and at 25, I was not long out of a emotionally and physically violent relationship. So I would have told my younger self that although your life won't turn out the way that you planned or imagined, it is actually going to be more amazing with many twists, turns, experiences, and adventures that you even think is possible right now. So just embrace everything that happens, know that it all happens for a reason. There is a lesson to be learned from all of the bad experiences and situations, and they have all played a part in me becoming the woman I am now in my 50s. I do believe that the universe has a plan. It all comes down to timing, fate, and destiny. That will eventually lead us to where we're meant to be, doing what we're meant to be, with whom we're meant to be.
Yeah.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would ever live overseas, or even have the opportunity to do so. I'm now living at the Gold Coast in Queensland, which is absolutely beautiful. And I never thought that I would wind up here. people used to say to me quite a few years ago, "Oh, why don't you move to the Gold Coast?" I'm like, I don't want to move to the Gold Coast. And now I'm at the Gold Coast, and I love it. I wouldn't move back to Brisbane ever.
Right.
So
That's great advice. That's great advice. Yeah, just don't plan because it's not possible. Just follow what follow what you love to do, and just let life unfold, basically, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Great advice. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tracey.
Thank you, Beth. Thanks for the time. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for listening today. If you would like to join me in telling your story about how you are quietly quitting your career and how you've got one foot out of the 9-to-5 rat race, or if you are a woman who has a story about already leaving the professional world to follow your passion and can offer inspiring advice, then please message me to get yourself booked in on an episode just for you. If you have a question for me or would like to know more information about how I can support you in one of my passion programs, please message me on Instagram, Facebook, or visit my website. You can also grab your free copy of my workbook, Your Passion Journey Starts Here, by joining my online community. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this podcast and share it with your friends. Until next time, this is Beth Taylor at the Passionate Pioneer Podcast, signing off.